2, 1, go!
What's up, gamers? Welcome to Screen Smash, a special developer interview. I'm joined by Daniel Hedjazi from Phoenix Game Productions in Osaka, Japan.
That's correct.
Awesome. I love Japan. How are you, sir?
Not bad. Good to be here.
Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it very much. I've been really excited to start doing some one-on-one talks and interviews, but it's more of a talk where, we just get to know you a little bit, learn about your industry, your experiences, and just help people understand that developers are people. And this is something I've been really excited for and looking forward to doing as an ongoing thing on my show. So thank you for being one of the first.
Well, thanks for the opportunity.
Heck yes. I'm absolutely excited to get to talk to you, sir, more because I already know a little bit, and I'm excited to share with my audience some of the things that you have been a part of and done in your past. So let's start right with that. Let's get a little bit of your background, who you are, how you got into gaming. Give us the run.
Well, so I'm from Germany. I lived in Germany until I was 26, and I think I got into gaming actually thanks to my mother, because when I was still like a kid, she bought me Tomb Raider and actually Doom. So thanks, Mom. She got that really going, and I think like in my teenage years, I got really into mapping. I made maps for Unreal Tournament and all that. So I think early on, like my hope was eventually to be able to work in the game industry. And from there, things kind of, like in 2010, I think I met Frederick Schreiber, and we were doing a little bit this Duke Reloaded remake thing, and that turned then into Rise of the Triad, the Rise of the Triad remake, and Frederick funded Interceptor Entertainment, and things kind of spiraled from there. In 2013, I moved to Japan to work at CyberConnect 2. I see you have a Demon Slayer shirt, and I think
CyberConnect 2 did that.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, so I moved to Japan because I was interested in the country for a long while. I learned Japanese, nice. In my spare time when I was still in Germany, and I think I just threw out a message to CyberConnect 2, just seeing if that would stick, but I didn't expect that anything would come out of that, and they invited me for an interview, and yeah.
Which projects did you work on at CyberConnect?
Well, there was one project that I really loved that unfortunately never came out. So that one still stays in my heart because it was a great learning experience. But from the ones that came out, I worked on Naruto Revolution, and then on JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Eyes of Heaven.
Yeah. My heart goes to those canceled games that we'll never know about.
Yes, thinking about them often. Rip.
Yeah, there's another one that I know you were affiliated with too that's also but we'll get there.
Yeah.
So then where did you go after, or what else did you happen to go through with CyberConnect? You said it was a good learning experience.
Yes. Yeah. I remember the first 3 months in CyberConnect, they were really hard on me because first of all, when I came to Japan, I suddenly realized, okay, my Japanese is not as good as I was hoping, and in CyberConnect back then, I don't know how it is nowadays, but back then, my supervisor was like, no, you need to speak Japanese during the work days, because they had other foreigners there as well. But my supervisor, and he was right. He was like, you need to learn, you need to get better at Japanese, and if you're just talking with people in English all the time, that's not going to help you. So from that angle, even outside of game development, it was a really good experience. But then, at Interceptor, we were just, like doing stuff in Engine. We were making maps as we were making things up as we were going, kind of. And in CyberConnect 2, suddenly it was like, forget about the editor. Here's, here's Excel. Start writing down your documents, and I had to get it approved every day. I had to write, like my spec documents. I had to give them at the end of the day to my supervisor, and he would give me a lot of feedback. Like it was pretty harsh, but so because like in the end, like the reason why he was harsh was also because he wanted me to be able to become like a full-time employee, and I needed to get to a certain level there, and so while it was harsh, again, like I learned a lot of stuff there, and I became also much more critical about the whole process of, not just like going in there and doing something, but first of all, properly planning things out and thinking about like why you want to do something. What is the reason why you want to go with this specific system? What does it add to the game, and why for this specific game here, right?
Yeah, you're not just winging it by the seat of your pants anymore.
Yeah. That was, and at the end of those 3 months, I was able to become full-time employee. And my supervisor, he's still a good friend. Like I'm seeing him almost every year, going over to Fukuoka. So, nice. Even though I'm not working with CyberConnect 2, a lot of people from that time I'm still in contact with. They had genuinely good people working there.
Nice. And then where'd you go after CyberConnect?
That would be Platinum Games.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was an interesting time.
So what was your position at Platinum?
For the most part, it was game designer. They didn't really have back then. I don't know how it is nowadays, but back then they didn't have too much of a clear separation between game designer and level designer. So it was more like if you're a game designer, depending on what the project needs, you might be ending up doing like system specs, or you might be ending up doing, like designs for some of the stages in the game. That was like, another learning experience. It was also pretty tough, but it felt like, like back then, like in CyberConnect 2, I felt like, okay, like this is pretty tough. And then going to Platinum was like, okay, the difficulty level, has risen further. But again, that was a good thing. So
I'm sure the high standards help equate to quality in their product and their process.
Yeah, there was a lot of try and error happening at the company. But that's the thing. Like they mostly like they also had obviously like the goal, like this is where we want to end up, and if that meant okay, what we just did, we have to throw that out and go back to zero, start again. Then that's what happened.
And what games did you work on with Platinum Games?
Boy, one was Scalebound, then Astral Chain, and also then Babylon's Fall.
Okay. Whew, that's a list, because like Scalebound. So that was your first game with Platinum, was Scalebound?
Yes.
Oh man. Yeah. Like I remember when you and I talked previously, and there was mention of Scalebound, and I was kind of like, oh my god, Scalebound. Like if you don't know anyone, Scalebound was this planned like action game by Platinum Games that was pretty awesome looking. I'll put some footage up here for you to check out, or go watch some YouTube videos. I was really excited for that game. I was like, this is like my dream Platinum game come true, and it got canceled. So yeah, we don't need to talk on that sort of subject any further. But that's
rip.
Yeah. I still remember the movement of like when Xbox started trying to do more work with Japanese developers and Platinum. Everybody's like, revive Scalebound, bring back Scalebound.
Right.
Because it was going to be an Xbox exclusive. But Astral Chain, love that game. That's great. That's one of like the best Switch exclusives out there that I don't think gets enough appreciation. I played a lot of that game. Sure. And then Babylon's Fall. How do we feel about that?
Well,
without getting into nasty territory.
Interesting. For me, the time working on that project was, a good learning experience. That's all I can say about it.
I mean, that's a good thing to take away from it, if nothing else. But yeah, I don't even know what was the big downfall really for Babylon's Fall, but it didn't do great.
Yeah. Like as it is, like some projects, everything just aligns internally, and sometimes it doesn't work out. I mean, they do have a lot of talented people at the company, and I mean, like afterwards, Bayonetta 3 came out, and that was an awesome
sure.
game.
I mean, Platinum Games for the most part ship some pretty amazing games. Like, it's hard to think of bad Platinum games, honestly. But
yeah.
So then,
for sure.
After Babylon's Fall, after Platinum Games, did you move on to another studio, or is that when you went solo, like independent?
Yeah, I mean, that's when I started up the company, Phoenix Game Productions. I mean, I wouldn't say necessarily solo, because in the end, the fact that we're still here after 5 years is basically thanks to all the awesome other people who are working at the studio. But yeah, so that was in early 2019. I think like at that time, I felt like there were things that I wanted to do differently. There were things that I really liked about Japanese game development. There were certain things that I was missing from Western game development. So I thought like, okay, it might be worth giving like my own studio thing a shot. And yeah, that's how I kind of jumped into it.
Just like, I'm going to do it myself. Let's go. I'm going to open my own bar.
Yeah, I mean, like, I mean, to be fair, like, I mean, like, there were people who encouraged me to do that. Other people here in, like friends that I made at Platinum.
Good supportive friends.
Friends that I, exactly, yeah. Some people from CyberConnect too. So I wasn't just like overnight, going like, okay, well, I'll do a studio. It should work out. Because it's obviously also a huge risk, and I was contemplating if that was the right thing, or if I'm maybe want to move somewhere else. But at that point, I felt like I wanted to do a completely fresh start. I wanted to do something different, and again, like the people who I talked with, everyone was like, hey, like if you have an idea for your own studio, why not try doing it. And at the time, thankfully, there were also like a few projects where we would where we got offers to be involved with. So I figured like, okay, if I'm not doing it now, then when? Right. So might as well give it a shot.
No point in putting it off at that, right? So you guys, well, you started up the studio with a few other folks, I imagine. Did you already have like games in mind, or was it just purely started doing like contract work for others?
Both. Like we were doing contract work from the beginning. Because I mean, you need to be able to pay the bills. But also, I didn't want us to just be completely in our bubble. Every development studio has their own workflows and ways of doing it, and I still wanted to make sure, especially if if I'm doing my own studio, that we would still be able to connect with other studios and their ways of doing things. So that was one thing. But then on the other side, there's also, our original title that we're developing right now, Tokyo Underground Killer. And that was something that I wanted to do for a long time. Like I had the idea for that game in my mind since, I think, 2014, when I was still at CyberConnect. So that was the other thing. I was like, okay, if I have my own studio, then I want to do Tokyo Underground Killer.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. It's like if you want to make your own project, you kind of have to do it yourself and make your own studio. It'd be harder to pitch it to a bigger studio.
Yeah.
Cool. So what kind of projects did you guys work on that you can speak about?
On the one side, I was helping at that time on Amid Evil.
Okay, yep.
By New Blood.
Amid Evil, yep.
Yeah. Yeah, so we did some level design for that. So that is on the very small indie side. It was a super enjoyable experience.
I mean, Medieval is really big in like the retro boomer shooter scene now too. Like I've played a good bit of it. It's a really fun shooter. It's very pretty.
Yeah. I booted it up the other day, for old time's sake. I was like, I'm having a really good time here. So that was the one side, and then on we had a very, very small team. And then on the other side, we worked together with M2, the company by the former Platinum Games president, Minami-san. And we worked with them together for Capcom on Resident Evil 4 Remake. So that was obviously, the complete opposite from Amityville, right? Like Amityville, you have like 4 or 5 people. And on Resident Evil 2 Remake, like just on the development side, you have like 200
That's
people.
crazy. So it was like a contracted deal through M2 through Capcom. So it wasn't like specifically through Capcom. But I'm just like wrapping my head around like how the industry works and how like companies contract out work like that.
Yeah.
And I'm sure they had pulled a good chunk of you guys. And were you working on mostly just like different elements or design pieces for the game?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think we're allowed to say like all the details, but generally speaking, we were working on parts of the game design. There's 2 boss battles that we were involved with. We also provided, a bunch of concept art, storyboards, animations.
Nice. Obviously, yeah. I'm a big Resident Evil fan, so
level design.
I geeked out pretty hard hearing that you guys worked on Resident Evil 4. Oh man, so like, what was involved for you guys then to do that work? If you can even say, like, do you already have like a bunch of people who are just diehard Resident Evil fans and knew exactly what they needed going into this project, or did you guys have to do any research and like replaying the old game?
So both, because everyone at the company loves Resident Evil. Like I mentioned before, like my mother back then, like she bought me a lot of games, but like when I probably shouldn't even have played them yet. And she also bought me Resident Evil 1 back then. I still remember, like we had like how the package looked. So from the first game, I was hooked on Resident Evil, and Resident Evil 4 for me was like a very important game. Like it was one of the games that really made me think, like, I want to work one day in game development. I was just like, so impacted by how well Resident Evil 4 was designed. And I know, like everyone, our concept artist, now art director Hans, he's, for example, also like a diehard Resident Evil 4 fan. And like he said, I know like one of his goals was one day to have his credits in a Resident Evil game. So like everyone was already like like pretty diehard Resident Evil fans, but obviously when the project started, we still all went back into Resident Evil 4, playing it, replaying it, doing a shit ton of notes, right? Like, okay, like why was something done a certain way? How were the levels constructed, all that stuff. So we really did a deep dive. And I got one from one of the producers. Actually, I got a environment book that he back then on the original Resident Evil 4 used, like to create like the textures for the levels back then. So got a little bit of memorabilia also out of that.
Yeah. I would say don't feel bad about playing Resident Evil games as a kid, because I'm pretty sure I got like my first PlayStation 1 with a copy of Resident Evil 1 and 2 for my 10th birthday or something. And I was like, yeah, let's go.
Yeah. 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 No, very awesome games.
And you must have like kind of nerded out pretty hard. It's like, yeah, we got the Resident Evil. Like, yeah, we're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, when when I got that offer at first, I was like, like, is this for real? Like first of all, are they really gonna do a remake? Because I mean, Resident Evil 4 is sort of like the holy grail, right? So I'm pretty sure like that's on their side also not like an easy decision to make.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So it's you kind of get this hesitation of like, should we actually do this? Because people love what we already did, and if we mess up the remake, we're going to be destroyed for it. Yeah,
for sure.
But they definitely didn't mess it up.
No.
Yeah,
no, it was a great experience.
I can feel that sentiment too with Hans, you mentioned, and I'm sure all of you guys. Like, I would love to have my name in the credits for one of those games one of these days. Not that I will, because I'm not in game development myself. We did have Nick Apostolidis on the show a couple of months back, the voice of Leon, and we nerded out pretty hard with him about Resident Evil.
I can imagine. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
he's
awesome.
a super cool dude. Really happy we got him on the show. Had a great chat. Mostly just kind of like nerd out about other games that he likes playing, and he was asking me for like more survival horror recommendations. I was like, I got plenty.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that was fun. He's a great dude.
Yeah, that sounds great. So that project that took a long time to get over the finish line. I think when was it? It was last year, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say it shipped last year. It's a little over a year
yeah,
now.
Yeah. Like my feeling of time, my senses of time, got a little bit messed up over the last few years.
Oh yeah, for sure. I actually was just thinking the other day when I heard that it's been over a year since Resident Evil 4 Remake came out, and I was like, has it really been a year?
Right?
Already?
Right?
Like, man.
Yeah. Same here. But yeah, so that project went on until last year, and then on the other side, we were also working with Slipgate Ironworks on Phantom Fury. That it came out just when was it? Well, it came out last month. So that one, and yeah, besides that, we are mostly focused right now on Tokyo.
Yeah, so you've been able to put most of your focus onto your project now.
Yeah, nice. That's where it is currently.
So it was Phantom
trying to get that over the finish line.
That's great, because I'm actually looking forward to that. It looks awesome. I'm really excited for Tokyo Underground Killer, and I've been playing Phantom Fury, and I'm really liking that game. So I'm not sure where your hand was in the development, but I'm enjoying what I've played of that game so far.
I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, that one's been a long journey.
How long's that been in development?
Development for that was also actually, I think, 3 years. 3 years. Yeah. Like initially, like 2 of us were working on that, and then later on, like we got more people. Kind of like Resident Evil slowed down, and Phantom Fury ramped up. So yeah, we got more people on Phantom than later on.
Yeah. And Slipgate made the original, was it Bombshell that Phantom Fury is based on, right?
Yeah, Bombshell and Iron Fury.
But it was Void Point that developed Iron Fury, wasn't it?
That is correct, yeah. Okay. So I guess like if you go into details, it would be Bombshell was developed by Interceptor Entertainment back then, which is what Slipgate was before we turned into Slipgate. And,
so that was your original like alma mater, if you will, kind of thing, right?
Yeah, I guess like I don't think many people are talking about that nowadays. And that's probably for the better. And yeah, Iron Fury was developed by Void Point.
Yeah, I've played both Iron Fury and now Phantom Fury. I didn't play the original Bombshell. I was looking at it, and it's like it has like mostly negative reviews. I'm like, it kind of looks fun though. It kind of looks stupid, but that's kind of like what I like about those games.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that project, like that really deserves a good postmortem.
It's on my wish list on Steam. I plan on grabbing it at some point and playing it one of these days. But I want to go back and see where the original Shelley, started from. It looks so different too from the newer games as far as the settings.
Yeah. Yeah, like I mean that project for me was I was involved in that. There was a little bit of between Cyber Connect and Platinum Games. Like there was a time where I was freelancing with them, and yeah. I don't think I have much to say about that. It's I think it's interesting to look at it, from
like
a bit far away
on it.
In retrospective, like take a look at it, and it's what worked in this game, or maybe what didn't work in this game, and why didn't it work. So from that like analytical perspective, it is interesting looking at it. But yeah, other than that,
I like doing that. I'm a big fan of going back and playing older games, especially from like the 360 PS3 era. And because sometimes those games, it's like, man, they really had something going here. Why wasn't this game more well known? Or like, oh, okay, I can kind of see why this game didn't do so great. I can think of a few off the top of my head that I've gone back and played recently that I never played when they originally released, 10-ish years ago. And it was like, how did I miss this game? Like, holy cow.
Right. Well, I think like that project. I mean, like I said, I don't want to talk about it too much, but I think what that game really would have profited from was, would have been like a much smaller scope in different ways. Less systems, like really focused just because it was like at its core it was supposed to be a top-down shooter, but like I think the game would have profited from focusing more on that and having smaller levels to work together with that
so
kind
it's a
of
little
gameplay.
Like over embellished, a little too much. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, that's my feeling. But I also feel comfortable saying that because I think pretty much everyone in that project feels that way. I don't think that's like a big secret.
I mean, we can bring it back to at least Phantom Fury, because one of my initial feelings that I had playing that game after spending a few hours with it, I kept thinking to myself, I feel like I'm playing a Nintendo 64 game that got remastered for the PlayStation 2 with new systems and features. And every time I think that, I'm like, this to me is a massive compliment, because I think of some of like the better Nintendo 64 shooters, like the old school, like Doom 64 and Turok, even Quake 64, and how, or GoldenEye even, I'll throw that in there, like the DNA that those games had for whatever reason that made them great. And I don't know why I get that vibe when I'm playing Phantom Fury. But yeah, I'm playing it. I'm like, okay, this is kind of stupid fun. I kind of had to tweak some settings as far as like, I was having a hard time shooting guys, and I'm like, oh, I'll throw aim assist on. I don't care, whatever, But once I got going, I'm like, okay, this is good fun. I like it more than Iron Fury, honestly.
Yeah, I feel like both games they're targeting very different, game styles, right? Like, I mean, Iron Fury is much more like, centered around like the 90s, fast-paced FPS kind of game, and Phantom Fury from the get-go was much more focused on a kind of like Sin Half-Life, like, style of gameplay.
Yeah.
No, like we had a lot of like people who really liked Sin on the development side.
Specifically Sin, like the original Sin game. Okay.
Yes.
Oh man, I haven't played. I played that game ages ago, and I forgot it existed for a long time until recently. And I was like, oh yeah. Like, it was one of those games that I just bought randomly because I had a PC and I was looking for games, and I went to the store and I'm like, Sin, that sounds cool. Gimme, I've had a lot of those kind of events in my life where I just try something randomly and not knowing what it is.
Right. Yeah, I mean, for me, I remember I bought Sin also like at an event somewhere in one of the cities. Like they had they had a bunch of used games that people were selling, and one of those was Sin. I was like, I saw like I just knew the cover. Like I saw that before in magazines, and I knew back then like you couldn't easily get it in Germany. So that made it even more interesting. So I just bought it on
because of the violence, right? Because I know Germany is really big on no violence in games.
I believe it has gone down in recent years, but back then, like 20 years ago, I mean, like there were a lot of games that you couldn't easily get. So back then, like I would often go to Austria or Swiss, and get the games from there.
If you can, if it's within decent range to just pop over to another country and grab it, sure. And you could twist my arm to go to Austria for the hell of it. Like, sure, let's pop over to Austria for a day. Why not? Right. Beautiful country, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, absolutely. No, that's the thing. Like, both Swiss and Austria were beautiful, and took us less than 2 hours, I think, with the car to go at least to Austria. So it's like, okay, well, let's do a day trip, like enjoy the view and get Quake Free Arena.
Yeah, right. Grab those games we can't buy over here for whatever reason. Nice.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that has kind of calmed down nowadays in Germany. I think like nowadays you can even get Quake and Doom on Steam over there. So, times are changing.
I mean, everything's changing, obviously. That's something we were kind of like talking a little earlier about with the industry, but like games nowadays, violence, language, nudity, that's become normal. That's standard. I still talk about like remembering the first time I ever heard a swear word in a video game, like, like, oh my God. But no, it's pretty standard across the board. And I think people are coming to understand that it's you know, it's still something that's constantly being researched about, you know, like whether or not video games directly influence people's minds and how they think. And, you know, back in the 90s, people were trying to blame Mortal Kombat for people killing people and stuff. And it's been proven that that's not the case. Essentially, there's research studies that show that people playing violent video games aren't inherently violent.
Yeah, I had a bunch of those conversations myself when I was still a teenager. You know, like there were definitely people, you know, like also who were like, oh god, like Daniel is playing these violent video games. You know, it's kind of dangerous. But yeah, again, like I think like nowadays, you know, my feeling is that even in Germany that has calmed down.
What's not calmed down though is the industry in some of the not so great ways lately, and that's something that I know we were kind of like, all right, do we want to talk about this? And I think I would very much appreciate your opinion and take and your POV on what the state of the gaming industry right now, and especially because you were, let's say, an independent studio, right? That's probably the best framework for Phoenix Game Productions. And we know there's been just mountains and mountains and mountains of layoffs over the last couple of years, especially this year. It's been a lot. It's been bad across the board, like no one specifically, but across the board, there's been a lot of just awfulness in the industry. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, you know, how does that make you feel? How does that leave you thinking?
I mean, I'm not feeling good about it.
It's not good.
No, I mean, yeah, it's. I mean, like it's. I think like the last half a year, probably like over half a year at this point. It's just, you know, it feels like you're going through a storm, and you're just trying to go through there. Like maybe like you can kind of see somewhere, you know, like a vague light, and you're trying to reach that light, and it's just like, holy shit, like it's raining so much, like, you know, you have like really bad weather and you're just trying to go over to the other side. That's what it kind of feels to me right now, you know, working in the industry.
Mm-hmm. They're just hoping for that break, but somewhere.
Yeah, I mean, like, not hoping, not that alone. So, like, if anything, to me, it means like, okay, well, like, you gotta really, first of all, you gotta make sure that you protect your crew, right? That's important. You don't want to arrive on the other side alone. Like, you want to make sure that everyone stays with you. So, if anything, like, it made me feel like more protective of everyone here in the last few months. And then the other thing is also, you know, even, you know, going back to like the whole storm thing, like even though the weather is really terrible, really still trying to, you know, be focused and thinking about like, okay, how can I get to this other side? So yeah, I mean, because just hoping for it, I don't think that's going to help everyone. Everyone's hoping for the best.
Yeah, I can't imagine like the mental state that this puts people in to think about, you know, if you're a developer, if you're in the industry, if you've been working in the industry, if you've been affected by any of the layoffs, you know, how hard is it to find a job, especially because the layoffs are so massive. That means you and a couple thousand other people are looking for the same job. And add on top of that, you've got new people coming out of school and university coming into the business. That's got to be terrifying, trying to come, you know, like break into the industry. And it's like, I have a friend actually that recently was affected by the layoffs, who had just started, like she was at a company for, I think, about 9 months working on a project and then got let go. And I was just like, man, like that's rough. And I can't imagine the stress that puts on people.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, same here. Like, I mean, I've seen people who got laid off, then they got another job, then 3 months later they get laid off again. It's just terrible. And I mean, like, you know, it's not even about their skills, right? Like, it's just, you know, like if a studio does a mass layoff, then, you know, it doesn't matter how skilled you are.
You're not safe regardless.
Just seeing that, like, so many like talented people lose their jobs, and then like half a year later you follow up and it's like, shit, like we're still looking for a job. It's just disheartening, you know, because they're all really good people, and you think like, man, like, I mean, like, you know, this person's just awesome all around. They have so much talent. Why aren't they not getting a job? But then, like there's so many other people out there who have the same fate, right? Super talented people, they would bring something unique to, whatever project we're working on. But there's just too many people out there at the moment. And, studios are still continuing to lay off people, right? I mean, like just the other day, there was the whole thing with Microsoft shutting down studios, right? And so it's not even as if things have calmed down right now. That's just terrifying.
The whole thing with Microsoft was definitely a bit rough, and I did think about it as much as I could and look back at, like, back in January, Microsoft had put out a report saying that they were going to be laying off like 1,900 employees across the Xbox brand, essentially. And they said that it will affect, Bethesda and etc. So I believe this is part of that, where they've been trying to like roll it out kind of like in waves and slowly. And I know Activision obviously got hit really hard, Activision Blizzard, because of the acquisition, and that created a lot of double positions or more, so when you're scooping up other companies, you get multiple people doing the same job, something's got to give. So it's an outcome of that. And I also feel like we're suffering the ripple effects of COVID at this point.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's something I think people are quick to forget. Like, COVID is already out of people's heads so fast. But it's important to remember that when COVID became such a problem and a pandemic, as it were, gaming skyrocketed,
Yes.
And all of these companies saw this giant, massive uptick in gaming sales and everything else that goes with it. So they started staffing up big time. Like, we got to prepare. We got to make sure we can put out games for these people who are playing games now that didn't used to play games. But now with COVID passing, gaming is coming back down, and now they're not hitting those numbers. They're not getting those metrics anymore. So they have all these extra people and not the revenue that they were getting. It's just, we're in a weird transition period, I think, in the industry.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think that's the best way to put it, honestly.
Yeah. No, agreed. I think definitely, like, I completely agree, like what we said in regards to Corona, like that had a COVID that had a big effect. Obviously, like people were just overhiring, and I also see that, for example, over a year ago, there were still like a lot of more publishers in the indie space who would take risks, right? You could come to them and be like, hey, like, we have this idea, and as long as you were able to show like a proper prototype of it, some studios some publishers were willing to invest in that. But right now it's just has so locked down. Everything has locked down a lot. So in order to find a publisher in the first place, first of all, there's publishers are not that willing that easily to give out money in the first place. But even then, a prototype is probably not going to cut it. Like I think like at the very least, like people will want to see a vertical slice. Like you really need to have like all the systems there already. Like you need to be able to show like, hey, we have everything there. Like we're ready to go into mass production for the rest of the game now. So just like the attitude itself as an effect has changed a lot towards, like indie games, I think.
Oh yeah, for sure. And then like trying to find a publishing partner alone, I would be very picky, from an outsider looking in. Like I wouldn't want certain publishers to be my publisher because I see how they handle their business, how they do things. And I'm like, I don't want to be with those guys. And like, if it came down to it where we only got one offer and it's from them, I'd be like, no, like, I don't know. I'm sure that there's probably people out there who've had to make that decision and they probably sit there and weigh their options. Like, okay, we either go with them or nothing. And
right.
I'm sure that's a terribly difficult decision to make.
Yeah, but I mean, like that's the thing. Then if you have that one chance, right, and it's like, okay, either we take that contract, or we don't get any money coming in, and we have to lay off people.
Yeah.
Then I'm pretty sure most people would take that contract. Because at least like that would still mean like even if there's not everything that you're happy with, but there's still like the potential, like the hope to for a better future, so to speak. But if like no money comes in anymore at all, and it's like, okay, like this is it, right? Then I mean, all hope is lost. Not all hope is lost. I mean, like that sounded more gloomy than I wanted to be, but yeah. But what I'm trying to say is just like I think right now, like as a studio, like it's really hard to make those decisions, and I don't think like you will just be able to make like like to get what you're ideally hoping for. If you get like a chance to get everything what you want for, then that's awesome. I'm happy for you, but I think it's really hard to get that right now.
How's it working for you guys as an independent studio? Like, do you feel that you're able to stand on your feet? Are you guys in any kind of a position to have to look for publishers?
I mean, we are talking with publishers. I mean, what I would say is in regards to like specifically Tokyo Underground Killer, that I mean, like quite a few people have asked us like, hey, when are you showing more gameplay? And we're getting soon to that point. Like like we announced the game very early because no one knew our company, so we felt like okay, like we should announce it early so just people have a chance to get to know us in the first place. But we are feeling like we're feeling really confident about what we're making here. Like in the last 6 months, since we got more people on the project, everyone has the same idea of what the game needs to be and where we need to go to get it over the finish line, and that's awesome, right? Like there's no internal conflict. Everyone's just like, okay, we all have the same idea here. We know what we need to do. Let's get it done. That's kind of the mindset here for everyone. And we're doing a lot of test plays. Everyone's like voicing their opinions. So we're looking not only at bugs, but just like at the quality of gameplay, right? Like like, is this good enough? Most of the time, like we always find something that we want to do better, and then it's like, okay, if we can afford it, let's make it better. Let's let's see what we can improve here. That's just like the mindset.
Normal for any creative. So anything, you're always going to be super critical and like, is this good enough? Is it good enough? Can we make it better?
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like that's important, right? Like if you're just winging it, then I feel like probably like game development is not the right industry for you. Or not even if you're just like, well, I mean, I just want to do like, I want to get my task, get that done, and then forget about it. Then I think that's hard in game development.
All right, so massive drop right now. What's the release date for Tokyo Underground Killer? Exclusive on this podcast. Well, I wish I could give you an exact date. We do have an internal date. We do have an internal date where we're like, okay, like this is the cutoff point. This is where we need to be done. I can't say that specifically yet, but we are aiming for end of 2024. Nice. Yeah, I was going for the laugh more than the actual answer. So,
well, I'm trying to be honest here.
Well, yeah. Obviously, it's hard to be specific with these things, and once you give a date, once you give a number, people are going to hold you to that, and then if you can't meet the date, then you start getting a lot of flack. That's a lot of stuff you want to avoid because oh my god, people will tear people apart for the silliest little things, especially when it comes to like release dates. And if you never say a release date, people don't think about it as much. Giving the window of 2024 is usually pretty good. And then if you scooch that into like, it might be 2025, people are going to be less agitated about it.
Yeah, for sure. But again, like, I mean, what I can say is that, we know what we need to do to get the game finished. It's we're not in the try and error phase anymore. At this point, it's really just like, getting everything that we need in there for the game to be done. And along the way, still, like improving things wherever we can.
Yes, I'm very looking forward to that game. I'm liking what I've seen so far with it, and I know you guys have been putting out a lot of new videos lately, and I check those out every time I see one pop up. So, especially because like in this realm where there's more and more shooters lately, I like that this one's a little bit more of an action, like hack and slash kind of FPS-ish game.
Yeah.
And I feel like those are starting to get a little bit more common too. There's quite a few of those popping up now. But I really appreciate your guys' take on it, especially with the whole neon Tokyo. I love that aesthetic.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Like we've been I think like last time I showed it to you was in December.
When we did our preview event, yeah.
It's been yes, yeah. So Because holy shit, the game has changed a lot since then. You really need to see it soon again. Like a lot of the combat systems have improved since last time. We added a lot more depth to it. There's like visually, you can probably see it if you look at some of like the recent videos that we're putting out on Twitter. Like there's definitely, if you compare what we're putting out recently and if you compare that to like earlier videos from a year ago, you can see there's a big change in terms of like the visual style. And besides that, like there's also some aspects that we haven't really shown that much. Like we do have this whole hub world in the game between missions that is almost like it's sort of like a mini version of the Yakuza games where you can play pachinko, you can
some like
buy
RC
capsule
car
toys.
races.
Man, that's a good idea. I wish we would have time for that, but I think we're trying to lock down on that. No, but there's a lot of like different mini games that you can play. You can do a lot of stuff with your apartment. Like you have your own small apartment in the game. You can you can customize that. You can buy you can buy idol figures. We have like our own like mecha toys and stuff like that in the game. You can buy that to change your apartment. You can even buy music in the game and listen to that.
You say mecha toys, so you can do like make your own little like custom mech robot kind of deal.
Yeah, like there's like different mecha toys that you can buy from capsule toy shops in the game. We always have like sets of 5 or 6 toys.
Nice.
And like when I'm saying like that, it might sound like a little bit like, oh well, that's pretty feature creepy, but that is actually like something like that whole aspect with your apartment in the hub, something that we had planned from the very beginning of the project. Like we wanted it to be okay. We wanted it to be to feel as if you are, like this assassin in Tokyo, and you constantly get new job. You never really have time to relax. But after each mission, you have like a small moment at night where you get back to your apartment. You can, smoke a cigarette, play a little bit around, do all the fun stuff that you usually can't do. And then once you relax a little bit, go back into the next mission. Kind of like like a lot of salarymen here who probably have pretty busy work schedules, and then in the evening maybe they go for a drink, they go to a snack bar,
right, trying to
then
do
they sleep, and then they have to go back to the work
whatever
again.
Little pleasures they can get in that time that they have.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
So you guys are going to release it as a full release, right?
That's currently
not
the
early
plan.
access or anything.
We've been talking about it, so maybe right now I shouldn't say that the option is completely off the table, but it's a game that like ideally, like we want it to be like an experience from start to finish. There's a lot of like, I think I showed you some of it. Like we have like these comic scenes in between that tell also a little bit of a story. So if there was an early access, we would make it in a way where it feels, even as an early access, right for that format. Maybe like like here's the first episode.
Yeah.
And then you get to see the rest of the episodes, in one package when we release the full game. So that's something that might happen. We're still talking about it.
Yeah, I was just curious because I know early access is becoming more and more popular, and it's actually proven pretty successful for a lot of teams. Right. So that's where I was curious if you guys were set on doing a full release or considering early access, especially because early access is kind of a double-edged sword, because I've seen some people look at a game in early access and they're just like, nope, I'm not touching that until it's fully released. But other times, games in early access develop with their community and it makes them better for it. And then people praise the hell out of the game, like Hades.
Right.
Hades had a huge transformation in early access, and it's universally praised by people of how much better it got because of early access. So, but it's good to know that like you guys are going to try to consider what serves you and your audience best. Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, like both options are on the table. What I think is important, like if you do for a game like this early access, that you need to have the time to take in like feedback from the community. But also you don't want to have your game like that, this kind of game, like stay in early access for 2-3 years. So that's also something to consider. Okay, like even if we put it out in early access, how much time would we need for taking in community feedback, like giving it time to do additional polish, but also not like having it stay in early access for too long, right?
Yeah, you want to make sure you have a good roadmap set out and be like, okay, this is what we plan on doing over a year or so, and
for sure,
this is our soft, like this is what we're targeting for the full release, and by then we're going to do all this, set all those expectations for people.
Yeah, for sure.
Is there anything else that you wanted to like shout out or promote for either Tokyo Underground Killer or your studio or anything else?
I mean, like right now, most of us are focused on Tokyo Underground Killer, and we are going to probably release like more footage, like like proper gameplay videos, long videos in the near future. Well, I just want to say thank you to everyone who is supporting our our project. I mean, we're like a very small studio, and like whenever we get like a comment, like people saying like, hey, like this looks cool, or it's just sending us some kind of feedback. Like we always really appreciate that. We're reading through all of that, and it's a game that I wanted to make it for a long time. But at this point, like it's not only my vision; it's like really like the whole team's vision. Everyone has put so much into it, and the game has gotten so much better for it. So,
awesome.
Yeah, we want to share it with the world, and we hope like people are going to like it. There's a lot of love in that project, really a lot of love in there.
Excellent. And I can only hope that having you here today and talking about it is going to drive some extra eyes over to you guys, and anyone watching or listening to this will immediately start clicking over to like Steam and or your guys' website and checking out the game, because it definitely looks cool. If you have any interest in the aesthetic of like samurais and swords and killing bad guys in a neon Tokyo setting, like, yeah, you're going to want to check this game out.
Thank you. Actually, one last thing that I can add to that here is because we are also, like our studio is located in Japan. We wanted to make sure that like most of the levels are like actually focused on like real locations in Tokyo. So we did our research. We went to Tokyo a few times, made like a shit ton of photos, and a lot of the levels actually, like part of the level layouts are even based on like how the real locations are laid out. So probably like some parts you could even like overlap that with Google Maps and be like, oh, okay, this is kind of like the path that yeah, exactly, yeah.
That could be cool. I wonder if that could be a fun Easter egg that you guys can put in the game somehow.
Well, yeah, I mean, like you can probably like if when the game comes out, like if you trace some of like the levels, you can probably see like where we like how we laid up certain things. Like obviously we changed things also to make it work with the level design, but we really try to base it on how things are laid out in the real world to make it feel as authentic as possible.
I'm looking forward to it. Cool.
Thank you.
Is there any last thoughts or topics or anything you'd want to touch on before I close out?
I think right now, like the game industry is just like like it's in general like in a pretty rough state, right? I think like obviously developers are feeling that. Publishers are feeling that in their own way, and I mean like also gamers, right, like are feeling that. I see like a lot of conversations about like concerns about the current state of the industry. So I guess what I want to say is just like, I mean, I know shit sucks right now, but I think like in the end, like I think many of us came to gaming because like you could it's in a way like you could see things in there that you can't experience in real life, right? Like for me, it's always about like like dreaming when I play games. Like I want to be able to see all these cool places, do all these cool things that I can't do in real life. And as much as the industry sucks right now, I think like there's always going to be a place for that. And so whether you're a developer or like a gamer, let's try that we get through this current mess that everything is in, and keep the dream alive. Because in the end, there's still so many awesome ideas out there in the world that deserve to be realized, and I want to live in a world where we all have a chance to see these cool ideas. So yeah, I think like we're all in this together.
No, I think it's a great notion, especially to put a positive spin on everything of you know, we're in this weird state with everything. It is kind of a shit show. And I see countless messages, tweets, TikToks, whatever, talking about how like gaming feels different, or it feels stagnant, or it feels like joyless. And I feel that a little bit. I struggle with that. And it has a lot to do with just, there's so many games coming out so fast, so often, and everyone's trying to get our attention. And then you've got like the live service games that want you to live in their games and never play any other game. And a lot of times all I can think about is like, man, I just want to be able to focus and enjoy my game and take it all in and appreciate it. And for the longest time, I usually had a thing whenever I played a game, I often would just stop and look at the environments and look at the settings and think about like, man, like look at that, look at those trees, look at that sunset, look at those mountains, and just think of everything that came together to make this experience for me to live in this world for however many hours I'm going to put into it. Yeah. And I miss that kind of, because I feel like I haven't been able to appreciate games as much as I used to because of just all of the noise. Yes. So. I completely, same here. Like, you know, and you don't even need to have like, you know, like realistic graphics for that. All. Like I was looking recently at, what was it again? Jet Set Radio. You know, I love that game. The game is awesome. It's so awesome. Like, and like when I played it, like it really brought me back to kind of like, you know, like how I felt about games as a teenager. Like I didn't think about all the noise. Like I didn't think about like the state of the industry. It was just like, you know, I could go in there. I could do all this cool stuff that I could not do in real life. I loved, you know, like, you know, I loved how they, you know, presented Tokyo. Was it Tokyo? Like how they presented? Yeah, I think it was Tokyo. How they presented that in the game's world, and that feeling of pure joy, right? Like I want to keep that alive. You know, like that's in the end like why many of us are making games. Right? Like I mean, if it was just for the money, you could find better jobs out there. But there is something wonderful about, you know, creating these new worlds, creating something that other people can interact with and have fun with, and yeah. Like, I don't want to lose that, right? You know, and we want to live those dreams because that's the beauty of video games. Is that, like you said it earlier about like, you know, being in another world and being in that dream, and that's kind of the same mindset that I've always had when it comes to video games. Even as far back as when I was a kid playing video games, and my dad would be like, "Why do you play these stupid things?" I'm like, because it takes me out of reality. Well, that's weird, you know. Like, no, it's fun. It's like, you know, people talk about reading books and how you get lost in the book, which is true. You absolutely do. And video games have that same magic. Movies don't have that. TV shows don't have that. Video games do. You can lose yourself in that world for a little while. And it's great. It's a magical thing.
Yeah. Yeah, completely.
So, yeah, again, I fully support your storm analogy and thinking of like, you know, we can weather the storm. It will pass. The industry will hopefully find a new equilibrium, which I think will come in the next couple of years. There's the companies are going to figure out, the developers, the publishers, people are going to start figuring out the new way to move forward and how games need to be consumed or delivered. And yeah, it's a lot.
We'll get through it. As long as we keep the dream alive.
Keep the dream alive, absolutely, for sure. And you are one of those dreamers putting out the dreams, and I appreciate you, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate you, man. Again, like, it was great, like, being here.
Thank you so much. I can't tell you enough how much I appreciate you taking the time out of your day to have a chat with me, talk about your experiences, and just nerding out a bit about a lot of the same things. And this has been really fun for me. I really appreciate your time, and I just thank you again for joining me today.
No, that was great. Thank you very much, man.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I really hope I can show you Tokyo Underground Killer again soon.
I look forward to it. You let me know.
Yeah, I will.
Awesome. And just a quick shout out to everyone out there. If you're a CouchSoup member and or community supporter, thank you for watching. Thank you for supporting our show and making this all possible. You guys are everything and mean so much more to helping us continue making this great content. And I hope you enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, because I don't know, maybe I'm just the nerd that likes learning about the process, about everything to do with video games. So maybe it's just for me. It doesn't matter. But I hope you guys enjoyed it too. So thank you again, Daniel. I really appreciate your time, and good night, everybody. We'll see you all next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.